So I like to open up my mind as much as I possibly can and sponge in whatever's around me. I've always been a guy of multiple perspectives, and I like to go into as many different aspects to a thing as I can. With a mind like this, I run into some pretty out there thoughts that I wanted to share with you guys. Yeah, some of this may make me sound a little crazy, but I see no benefit in shying away from your imagination where philosophy is best bred. The first one got me thinking from when I was struggling with my passion. I've been running out of drive to make YouTube videos. I was no longer passionate about computers and tech like I used to be. It got me wondering what it was that causes this. I saw people working for the same job for 40 plus years, and I have no idea how that could be possible. It got me thinking about likes and dislikes and how much about my life is completely out of my control. For example, when I eat food or listen to music, I didn't choose to hate black licorice. If I was a rational person, I'd understand that all foods are a source of nourishment and therefore I should have no reason to dislike anything. Yet when I pop that poison in my mouth, I react instantly with disgust. My body chose for me to dislike the candy. Great, glad that's out of my control. With music, I could sit in a room and listen to country music all day trying to force myself to enjoy it, and yet, nothing's gonna change. There are things about us, fundamental characteristics that we never got to decide. We can pretend we chose those things, but really, it wasn't our choice. I then paired this with my struggle to stay content. Why do I get bored? I had a great job at Falcon Northwest that so many of my subscribers said they'd kill for. I have a YouTube channel that's become semi-successful. It pays my bills, and yet I grew tired. This is also irrational, and if I could, I would choose to never get bored. Yet, I do. This starts to make me feel like I'm not actually in control of my own life, like I'm an NPC in some simulation that was programmed with certain characteristics, and now I'm just living the life of a person who would behave like that. Simulation theory is kind of fascinating. Neil deGrasse Tyson and Elon Musk have both spoke on this a lot, but for those of you who don't know, I'm going to take you on a bit of an adventure here. Can you imagine in our future that we could become so advanced that we could build a computer with the ability to simulate an entire universe? We have games like Star Citizen, Universe Sandbox, No Man's Sky. We can procedurally generate a universe. The more we learn about ours, the more we can potentially create one-to-one scale replicas. As artificial intelligence becomes more advanced, we can start making NPCs that not only act like real humans, but potentially believe that they are real humans, believe their universe to be real, and even get to the point that they become so technologically advanced that they do the same. This could be infinity. The first humans to create a simulation may have done so to try to understand how they started, or perhaps what life would have been like if some things were different. This can align with the idea of a multiverse, different simulations that are almost identical but different because of one thing or another. The whole thing is a lot of fun to think about. Now hold on a minute, Barry. Who's to say that we aren't the first ones? Why would you just assume that we're in the simulation? Well, that's where pesky math comes into play. Factoring things in like how perfect the conditions are here for life, how old our universe is, and all that human characteristic garble I spewed at you earlier, Neil deGrasse Tyson and Elon Musk say, the likelihood that we're the first is 1 billion to 1. Now this wouldn't change anything. Our lives wouldn't lose or gain meaning. We would just potentially know a little bit more than we did before. What you can't do with this information, however, is take it too seriously. You will go insane. This is why I keep my mind so open. See, I'm not bothered by this thing that I can't prove. It's fun to think about, and that's as far as I'll go. The point I throw my stock into something fully is the point there's so much irrefutable evidence that nothing else makes sense. However, this universe is not subject to definition, or so it seems. For all we know, this whole thing could be a giant cell. We notice things in nature scale up, right? Atoms, which form small, complex life forms, often resemble neurological connections similar to the ones in our brain. Scale that upward, and mushroom colonies the size of 6 blue whales have the same thing going on. Who's to say that doesn't scale up further? The idea is after 10 to the power of 100 trillion years, our universe will suffer from heat death. All the planets and stars will have died and will have been sucked into black holes. The black holes will have evaporated and the universe could collapse in on itself or rip right open, which, interestingly enough, is very much what cells do when they die. This is the point. You can throw your stock into one thing. God made it all. But if you don't let other things in, you can make yourself go nuts with all the unanswered questions. For example, how the hell does fate fit into all this? There are those out there who not only claim fate is real, but say that if you live your life harmoniously through fate, that you will live a happier life. Alan Watts spoke about serendipitous events, happy coincidences that show you're on the right track. They'll seem simple and subjective, personal to you, which is annoying because when you try to tell another person what you experience, they'll just say it was a dumb coincidence and brush it off. See, if the universe is alive and everything's connected, then we have a more interesting chat ahead of us. What I want to start with are thoughts and dreams. Where the hell do those come from? See, when I'm awake, I'm living my life, doing my thing day to day. When I dream, I feel like I'm no longer the same me. I'm just some guy in a new situation, and the weirdest part is, I never think about me. I never think, oh yeah, I'm sleeping right now. To me, it feels like I've always been that person that I am in the dream. Always have lived the life that he was living, and that's a bit strange. I've heard of people taking psychedelics and living through other people's lives. Whether they call them past lives or just alternate lives in general, they claim that they feel the same way. They were always that person, and they completely forgot about who they were while it was happening. If life is connected, and we have access to other people's lives, wouldn't that be interesting? Now, of course, this is our mind. I could have a dream, and perhaps all it is my mind simulating for me a situation so I can prepare for it if it ever does happen in real life. There has been theory that dreams helped us out back in our most primal state when we had to learn to fight off animals. Dreaming would help us with that, but the alternate theory is just like you can tune a radio, so too our minds can pick up on a different signal. Run with this analogy for a second. When you can think in pictures and in words. I tend to mostly think in words, but have you ever been thinking and then all of a sudden a thought enters your mind and you're like, what the hell? Why did my brain come up with that one? See, that's another example of not choosing what you think about. It just kinda happened. And I do like to toy around with the idea that if the universe is connected, and we are all connected, then maybe sometimes we can connect to another person's frequency. See a small moment in their life that could potentially help us in ours. Maybe while this fleshy bag of bones and skin is asleep, consciousness tunes into something a little more interesting from another universe or simply another perspective. Now, I know some of these thoughts aren't fully coherent. I know that some of them are a bit nutty, but they swim around my head all the time, and I have a wonderful time entertaining them. This universe is enormous, and the idea that we have a clue what's going on here is ridiculous. I hope that maybe some of you would be intrigued and might like to give me your take on some of these things, or maybe some of the crazy things that you ponder over. Every so often when I tell people these thoughts, they get upset at me, tell me these thoughts are arrogant, which is kind of annoying. We're such powerful creatures with the ability to form models of our own universe in our minds, and through those we can test these models. Philosophy, imagination, they're the breeding ground to new scientific discoveries, and to shy away from them, that's fine. To tell someone they're being arrogant for the things they contemplate, that's regressive. You ever wonder if the universe gets pissed? Like maybe people are so negative about all this because it doesn't want us to know? I mean, there are things that are out of your control, right? How far does the rabbit hole go? But I think the universe is playful, tells jokes sometimes. If this video were about God, this would be called blasphemy. I like to think of it as stimulation for the simulation.